right. All right. So, Daniel, what are you doing to get back profitable? And also, what is the timeline that you're trying to set on yourself to get back profitable, if there is one?
Yeah. So just to go back, I think I told both of you guys I was taking a challenge a month ago. So not this last month, but the month before it. I didn't pass. I was positive like 1.5% or something like that, but it's an 8% profit target, so clearly I didn't pass it. You know what I mean? Um, but they do. My Forex funds does give you a retry, so I still have that retry in my back pocket forever for whenever I do want to do it. And I feel like I kind of the reason I didn't pass it was because I feel like I wasn't consistent enough. I feel like I might have taken 10, 11 trades in that 30-day period, and I feel like if I'm going to be more profitable, um, I would be trading more in a 30-day period. You know what I mean? I didn't really show
Maybe,
up.
maybe not.
I mean, maybe, maybe not, but
Yeah.
I feel like I wasn't as disciplined as I had been in the past. Like we were talking about it earlier this week that we used to be like the point in time where we were our most profitable was what a couple years. Damn, it's actually wild that it was a couple years ago, but yeah, a couple years back when we were all like checking in on each other, like, hey, what are you doing? How was your last week of trading? Blah blah blah, and we were taking it much more seriously. Um, and I definitely just wasn't taking it that seriously, partly because um, I have a full time job and I wasn't, I was like, oh well, it wasn't necessary. You know what I mean? When I was trading before, when I
Yeah.
was over in Spain, that shit was necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was making less than 100 euros a month. I mean, my house and my food was paid for, but still, there's more expenses than that. You know what I mean? I was making less than 100 euros
Yeah.
a month from the team that I was playing with, and that trading money needed to come through. You know what I mean? So I was much more disciplined about it and stuff like that. So I definitely wasn't doing that. So to answer your question, what do I have to do to get back profitable? Just take it more seriously. Um, Take it much more seriously. Be more disciplined about it. Um, I was. I know when I started trading, because I did take a brief hiatus from trading, and then when I picked it back up right before taking that challenge account, I think I mentioned to you, Chuck, that I wanted to do more of a swing trading style because I wanted to be in the market less. I didn't want to have to show up every single day. But at that same time, that doesn't.
Doesn't mean you can't
I
show
miss
up
a
every
lot of
day.
opportunities that way because
Right.
like if I'm trying to be in the market less, then the times that the trades will show up, I'm not there because I'm doing something else. You know what I mean? Whereas the way I was trading before on the 5 minute and the 1 minute, if you show up every day for hour and a half, 2 hours, you maybe you find a trade during that period, maybe you don't, but you know that you're there during that period of time, and you can dedicate that time to trading. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna start doing that again too.
Yeah, and I kind of I want to circle back to something, but it's interesting that that last part that you ended on about this whole dedicated time because that's something that I've been like struggling with personally in terms of how to best go about it. So to kind of level set with people who may not know in terms of like life updates, like Daniel said, he's not working a full time job. I have also been working a full time job, and I'm now leaving to go to law school, and so you know I have time to put trading into my life, especially as it relates to a full time job, because for better or worse, the shit's 9 to 5 most of the time. If that, I work a very flexible job as well, so there are mornings where I can, maybe start a little bit later. Maybe sometimes I need to start a little bit earlier. It depends on what it is. But that being said, like, law school is not that way. Like, I class at the same time every single day. Classes when the class is. I need to do the studying. I need to do the studying when I need to do the studying, all that kind of shit. And so, this idea that because I had been building a swing trading strategy where I was very much more like there was a range of time in which I could be active in the market, but I was very agnostic to this idea of like always kind of like being at the chart, in terms of so say for example, I might actually have a range of time from 7 to 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. that is valid for me to take an entry, but I may come to the chart and see that at 7 a.m. I'm not going to likely get an entry until like 9:30. right? And I can come back to that at 9:30 and just take it then. That's kind of the way that I've been building my strategy as of recent. But I've been thinking to myself that might not be the best way to go about it on two fronts. One, I don't want to be, because I remember when I was in college and we were trading in college, right? And I was even profitable at this time, but like at the same time, like I was trading that way, and I was constantly worried about my trades while I was in class. You know what I mean? Or missing a trade while I was in class, right? So I might actually be in class and be paying attention, but I might say to myself, like, oh, let me go check this real quick. Let me go check that real quick. Like that kind of stuff. Let me go see if this is ready, that's ready. And so I don't want to have that happen while I'm in law school because I could finesse while I was an undergrad, I'm not going to lie. Because for better or worse, like, I really liked what I was learning in terms of like finance, and so at the end of the day, I would likely just go try to learn it on my own anyway, But like, it's not really the same for law school. Like, I need to be able to be present when I'm present and learning. And so, yeah, I'm starting to think maybe it might be a good idea for me to move it more towards this idea of you trade from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and only from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Right? And like the same, you just look for opportunities, same kind of patterns and opportunities that way. But I'm realizing that would likely equal me changing my strategy, even though I've been spending a lot of time getting very comfortable with the strategy that I have now. But I think there may be a space for me to like maybe change it and not change it overly too much. In terms of like the things that I do and the things that I look for. And in that way, maybe it's just like a tweak of the strategy as opposed to like me completely trying something new. Because like I said, I have spent a lot of time like getting comfortable in terms of like describing my strategy to myself in very quick ways, or learning how to like break rules down so I have it like written down in my documents. Like, I don't want to waste all that time, so yeah. But I also wanted to circle back to something else real quick with you, Daniel, which is this idea of what can we do to help hold you accountable with you staying more serious in terms of like you showing up to the markets.
That's a good question. I mean, we've talked about but we've talked about trading together. So I feel like doing that, having hopping in a room together and just, hey, what are you seeing? Oh, I'm seeing this, blah blah blah. I might take a trade today, maybe not. Probably that. And doing it, and also like to a degree, it's not on you to hold me accountable. You know what I mean? I still have to be.
I mean, yeah, but like,
I have to be.
But that's the thing about accountability, though.
No. Yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, I still gotta wake up on time to be able to show up to the market.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And y'all could be like, nigga, where were you?
Right.
But you know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I still have to do my part. But I think, yeah, definitely trading together.
And I'll say this: I think we need to use this space as well, like, because we've talked about this. This is why we're doing this now. Is yes, it's great content, but more importantly, like you mentioned before, when we were most profitable, we were doing shit like this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Like we were at our best level of profitability. We were doing this shit every Saturday. No matter what, like we had to text each other if we couldn't make it. Like that kind of shit. So I think this is like also a very good space for it. So yeah, Amber, same question to you. What are you focused on in terms of getting yourself back profitable? Or yeah.
All right, so I guess quick life update for me. I personally work part-times and I work on the weekends so that I could focus my time on trading, which became a double-edged sword because it creates this kind of like identity that you get wrapped up in with your trading, and it's like it's not really a good place to be, like You're more than your trading. You're a whole human that has all these other things going on with you, and it's super, super, super to remember that and to take that with you, right? So last week I've been working on a strategy. I've been trading euro dollar specifically during the London Open Kill Zone, which was 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pacific time, local time. And that schedule just was not sitting well with me, even though I was seeing consistency and I was seeing profitability, just focusing on that same time window every single day.
How do you sleep?
How did I sleep? I didn't.
How do you sleep? like even if you set aside time, you're like, I'm gonna get 8 hours. Like,
no.
What do you sleep till 11 and then you stop, or like you sleep after 2? Like,
I am an early riser, right? So like my internal clock would go off every day, pretty much between like 8 and 9 a.m. So I was going to bed at 3, getting up at 8, and I was a freaking
Mm,
zombie. And like I just started to see like my profitability kind of start to like decrease. My consistency was decreasing, and I was being more inconsistent. So I took a week off to just kind of like allow myself to recover. That was last week, and just kind of see where I'm at, like what I need to figure out how to fit trading into my life versus trying to fit my life around trading. Like, cool, the strategy was great. Like, I love this strategy, right? But that's okay. Like, I can just adapt it and change it as I need to. So,
what's the point of an amazing strategy if you can't trade it well?
exactly. Like, if your mental game is in opposition to your best
Yeah,
tactical
it's not
execution,
gonna matter for
it's
shit.
not gonna work.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work. You're gonna square peg and round hole
Yep.
the whole way through.
You,
And
you're
like,
gonna do this. You're gonna go up and down, up and down, up and down.
yeah,
It's gonna feel great, and then it's gonna feel awful. And it's gonna feel great, and it's gonna feel awful. Like,
exactly. And so
yeah,
I'm tired of that. So I'm realizing like, okay, like I have a few options ahead of me because I do like the set schedule of this is the time that I'm really like looking for trades, focused intraday stuff, right? But
yep,
at the same time, like I noticed that I would be seeing trades like set up at the end of the day that tagged in Asia that random I take profit before London, and like I could have just hit the trade off the H1 instead of trying to time it down or like waiting till this like specific timing window. Like understanding
yeah,
that the timing windows are there for a reason, but there's also other timing windows at play. Like it's not just hill zones. It's not just these little 3 hour windows. It's like
right.
there's other reasons for the market to move at different times. And so I'm kind of trying to decide as far as moving forward, do I just want to like trade the H1 and then kind of swing trade it and just work on my patience because I get a little antsy in trades, you know what I mean? That's why I switched to an intraday strategy because it's like if you're wrong, if you're right fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Um so that's what I'm going to focus on this week is just making sure I'm getting myself into peak optimal mental shape, which involves fitness, nutrition, and sleep. Most importantly, sleep. And then just work on. I already built a mechanical strategy to trade the London Open session. I just need to probably just create a more mechanical strategy to trade higher time frame order blocks and just keep it as simple as that because I think I just keep overcomplicating it over and over and over again. Like I find
Yeah,
simplicity and then like I do all this extra stuff because well I learned how to do that. I learned how to use all these different concepts and all these different PD arrays and I don't know. Like it's just like you don't need to do that, dude. You could just make money trading support and resistance at the end of the day.
You know, it's
So
funny that you say that.
yeah.
It's funny that you say that because
Yeah.
like, well, first I have two things to say. First of all, I want to ask you a question first, and I'll give you some time to think about it before I say my next point. So the question is, when you mention patience, like, do you mean more that you need to practice waiting for the opportunity, or once you're in an opportunity, just allowing it to play out? And I'll let you think about that real quick
Go on.
because
oh
I
no,
want
I
to talk.
already
I
know
want
the
to touch
answer.
on something that you just said about like just you learned more advanced things, so you want to do more advanced things, but like just keep it simple. You know what I mean? And it's funny because like one of my soccer coaches would always be like I mean like and like one of my coaches like a couple years ago he was saying that like you don't always have to do like something like spectacular. You don't have to have like some spectacular shot. Sometimes just toe poke it. Like if you're right in front of the goal, just fucking kick it, hit it with your toe, and it'll go straight. And sometimes it'll go in. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of times where, not even just in sports, but in life, you're like trying to overcomplicate something because you've learned something more
Yeah.
advanced. But like the simple,
Yeah.
just toe poke it. You know what I mean?
I
Just kick
mean,
it.
it's yeah, like or my coach used to always say, Daniel, there's no reason for you to need to be able to like hit the best shot ever. Just get 1 yard and hit it. If it deflects in, it's still a fucking goal. You know,
Yeah,
get your yard and fucking shoot.
yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be pretty. It just needs to go in the fucking goal. But I actually wanted to ask you something about the patience as well, because I think this is something that the kind of discussion you're having with yourself right now is one that I've had with myself as it relates to my trading. Am I swing trading? Am I more intraday? Yada yada. Should I go 1 hour? Should I go back down? Lower time frames? All this kind of shit. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I had to think about was not so much my schedule, but like in when we're talking about this one thing specifically I'm talking about right now, not so much my schedule actually, but actually like who I am as a person. Like how quickly do I need to know that I'm wrong or right? Like I have this intense need to know that I'm right or wrong. So because of that, I gravitate more towards the lower time frames because I am very quickly able to see whether I'm right or wrong. Basically, within an hour of me getting into the trade, I will be able to know whether I'm going to be right or whether I'm going to be wrong, even if the trade's not over. So I would definitely like think about it from that standpoint because even though you might say to yourself you need more patience, I would say yes, but you need the right type of patience. Like I don't think the patience, I don't think patience in the market should graft at who you are as a person. You know, like if it's grafting at who you are as a person, you may get it under control for an extended period of time, but it's going to start leaking out in certain areas. You know what I mean? It's going to start leaking out and you taking opportunities that you probably shouldn't be taking, or you getting out of a trade early when you probably shouldn't get out of a trade early, which was always my issue. And now that I've switched to this idea of like me going intraday, I have never once had an issue with missing an opportunity or like being an opportunity and closing it down early or any of that kind of shit. Like it's all very easy for me because I'm like, all right, well you entered and you'll know whether you're right or wrong in like an hour. Or like even if it starts to move against me, I'm like, well, give it an hour and you'll see if you're actually wrong and you'll confirm it to yourself. Or as opposed to it'll start moving against you and maybe you'll see that you might actually be right in this one. And so I would definitely say that because the minute I realized that about myself was the minute I stopped having issues with like missing opportunities or like getting in and out of an opportunity early or whatever the fuck. And now my issue is much more just about like showing up and being consistent in the market the same way. And that's really just more of a life thing. Like that's just me, trying to get my fucking life together and get everything together like that I need to get together. But like, I don't feel diametrically opposed to the way that I trade.
Yeah.
Whereas like when I was trading with Falcon, it felt like something wasn't right. Like the best way I can describe it is my trading strategy was grafting against who I was as a person. So I would just call that out. I'm not saying that you are one way or the other, but I would just think about it from that perspective as well.
And one thing that helped me with that, but that I've always done is like every time I put on a trade, I'll go on a walk, go to the gym, throw on some FIFA. Like I'll distract myself from
Right.
the fact that I just took a trade. Like I'm trying to remove myself from the outcome of it. I'm like I trust in order to like trust myself. You know what I mean? I did the analysis. I did everything. I did my markup, and I made a bet. You know what I mean? I'm betting on myself that I'm right in my analysis and all the things that I've learned to this point, and I put it all into that trade. So I'm not gonna just sit here and worry about it. So I leave. I leave the situation.
And I think even to that point as well, like that's something I also practice myself. Like if I like especially say for example when I used to like trade way earlier in the morning and I didn't want to walk outside at like 4 in the morning, for whatever reason, I would just like take a trade and like immediately play FIFA. Like I wouldn't like think about it twice, like all that kind of shit. And but even then, like especially during the Falcon time, I would take that trade, play FIFA, and I would still catch myself thinking about it. You know, because I realized at the end of the day, it was not so much about me taking myself out of it, because for me, I have the mental capacity, and I'm not saying this, and nobody else has this mental capacity, but just the way that my mind works, I keep a lot of things in my mind at one time, so I can be playing FIFA and still be thinking about all this other shit that I need to be thinking about. Actually, I prefer to do it that way because it helps me think, and so I would be sitting there playing FIFA and still like harping on the fact that I'm in this trade and like, oh fuck, was that right? No, was that right? No, was that right? And now it's just become a lot easier to just be, you're playing FIFA. By the time you're finishing this game, you'll have a good understanding whether you're right or wrong, and you can evaluate what you did right or wrong.
Yeah,
or by the time you finish 2 games, you'll be basically, have a good understanding of how right or wrong you are, or it won't have really moved all that much.
Yeah,
so I'll definitely say that, like, just make sure it's,
I'm the same way.
As much as you might put things into practice to help you be patient, if you think that's your issue, make sure that the patience is the right type of patience.
Yeah.
Is the way that I would say it. Like, because patience for me and Daniel is a different kind of patience for Isaiah. Like, patience for me and Daniel might be like a day, whereas like patience for Isaiah might be like a whole week. And it's just because who we are, like as people. So.
And I will, and I'll let you answer, Amber. Sorry, but what I will say to that, Chuck, is that I'm the same way. I will still think about it, but like I feel like the purpose of me doing it is to remove the ability for me to fuck it up. Like
Oh no,
I just don't want
I'm not.
I just don't want to be like at the chart and be able to be like, oh well, fuck, maybe I should just close the trade now. Like that.
And
That's the way I think about it.
honestly, the best part about it to me is yes, that, but also this idea of if you get up and you change your trade in any way, shape, or form, you have to sit there and reconcile with that shit because you probably closed your laptop, you probably walked away from the desk, and you got up, you got your ass, you stopped what you were doing, you got your ass up, you walked back to the desk, opened the fucking thing, you had all of this time to think about it, and you didn't stop yourself. You need to reconcile with that.
Yeah.
So it was like there would be moments with myself when I would do that shit. And I was like, bro, you have an issue. like that's not okay, dog. Like you came from outside, come back in here to like do this shit. Like the computer was closed. like so, and it's like the other thing too is like you might have the app. I deleted all the apps off my phone. So like the only way that I could do it was to open up my laptop and trade that way. So it's like it was really one of those things where it's kind of like an alcoholic, right? Like if I put all of these prohibitions in front of you so you can't drink alcohol and you get over all of them to still drink alcohol, like you probably got a fucking problem. Like let's be real, like it's probably something you should address. So yeah, I think it's also great in that sense as well because it's like if you continue to have the issue, it probably shows you that maybe your strategy is probably not right for the way that you personally need to trade. It might not even be a patience thing. It might be just you don't trust your strategy. That's another thing that it showed me as well. Because there was times when like it also showed me I'm nervous because I'm not really sure about the bet that I made.
Or you don't trust in the or you don't trust in the
Yeah.
ability or in your ability to trade the strategy.
Yeah, one of the two. Either one is still an issue,
Yeah.
right? Like it's something that needs to be addressed through more back testing.
Yeah.
And you having these moments and doing this and kind of setting this shit up in this way is an easy way for you to see that shit on a regular basis, at least in my opinion. Especially when you're first getting started or you're like first trying to get back over a mental block or whatever. That's generally speaking when you start to see the most issues of like, I'm gonna go open my laptop again. I'm gonna go open my laptop again, or
Yeah.
like I'm gonna go download this app real quick and see what's up.
All right, yeah, we went on a bunch of tangents, but now Amber. So back to patience.
Yeah, so it wasn't patience getting into trades. It was patience holding the trades to targets, and I think a lot of that issue with the patience came more so from like fear, because it's like, well, what if I'm wrong? Like I feel like it's just like a personal problem that I've been working to address again via fitness, nutrition, getting adequate sleep. But it's like, just like, oh, okay, well, I have this target set. Is it gonna hit it? And I'm like, dude, like, it doesn't. Honestly, it kind of doesn't matter if it hits it, right?
No.
It doesn't matter if it hits it. You don't even need it to hit it to have a profitable trade. So I have to like, I've been trying to reconcile with that. Like, do I just target like a set variable risk, or do I like target a structure? And then am I bad if I don't take the trade at the structure and instead pull it a little bit shy of the structure? And then I'm like, but when it gets to like within 5 pips of my take profit, and then it pulls back on me another like 30 pips, like I don't want to sit through that. So when do I, like, all these different issues that I still had to kind of like work through. Whereas like when I was trading with Falcon, you just took it at structure. I was patient.
You know what might be helpful? This might sound a little wonky, but it might be a very like conducive exercise for you. You should sit there for like Sunday or like at least like an extended period on like one day where you can just sit there and think about this shit. Decide what your personal trading values are. Like, because you're sitting up here talking about, is it right? Am I bad? All this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that you're wrong to think this way, but if it sounds to me like you're worried about others judging you in the way in which you trade, right? And it's not just about like the technical way in which you trade, but also like you as a trader, you showing up properly, doing the right things, doing the right proper things that a trader would do, which is fine because that's what's going to lead you down the road of like doing the shit that you actually need to do. But at the same time, the nice part about trading is it's such a singular activity that you can actually have your own values. Like we don't, it's not like society where it's like, yeah, I might value, and this is gonna sound a little crazy, I might value that murder is okay, but society doesn't say that shit, you know. Society is gonna be like, I don't care what you value, nigga, you're going to jail. Like, and that's the thing, you know. But like trading is not that way. Like trading is very much like, if you value holding your trade through the entire shit in terms of what your targets are, then that's what you focus on. If you value, if it's 5 pips for my take profit, I can pull it because what I value is making sure that I lock in profit, then that's fine. But the only thing that we ask of you as like your trading buddies or whatever the fuck is consistency, you know? And that to me is, I think, the only like universal value that's really kind of around in the trading space is consistency. Whatever it is that you decide, consistency. But like,
And
I'm not saying that you don't know that. But what I'm saying is, to me, it sounds like you don't have an understanding of like your own personal like trading, like, you know, how you want to trade, because it sounds like you want to trade the way that other people are going to agree with it, you know, for better or worse. And like, I'm not trying to tell you how you're thinking, but like, that's just the way that it sounds to me when you talk about like, am I right? Am I wrong? Am I, you know, should I do this? Should I do that? Because it's like, to me, the only thing that you should do is the shit that makes you money. If pulling the trade 5 pips from the target makes you money and it makes you money consistently, then that's what you do. And nobody can tell you that you're wrong. But Stokes might tell you that you shouldn't do that shit, you know, because he's saying like, you have a target, you should stick to it, whatever, you know.
yeah, and kind
But
of
ICT will probably tell you to pull that shit 5 pips. He'll probably say, if you feel like it's gonna run back on you, pull that shit.
yeah, and
You know?
and kind of going off of that, like I think the biggest the biggest jump that I had from me just like kind of messing around in the markets to being more consistently profitable is finding out like, and I'm going to use a sports metaphor, but basically finding out what you're able to live with. Like people in the
Yeah.
like if you watch a lot of these NBA players when they're talking about like stuff like playoffs and playoff games and stuff that happen, they're just like, well, you know, if LeBron or if Steph Curry drains a three on like where he's double teamed and drains a three and like that ends the game, like I could live with that. That's Steph
Yeah.
Curry. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. But if it's a role player, then that's a problem. Like that one hurts. That one hurts more. You know what I mean? So to bring that back to trading, it's like, are you able to live with the fact that it'll come within 5 pips of your target and then it'll reverse? Can you live with that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you able
exactly
to
right.
are you able to like handle that mentally? And I don't know what the answer to that question is, but you just got to find that out for yourself. Like that's been a big thing for me in like helping me.
That is a
be able to
beautiful way
do.
to put it, DR. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't mean for it to sound like it was questions. It's questions. I'm posing those questions against what I know I can do in the markets from a technical standpoint. Is it wrong for me to pull it early if I know from a technical standpoint that I've done these markups, it might pull back that 30 pips and then continue on to my take profit? And then what does that typically indicate? Does that mean that I can actually hold a piece of the trade even longer than I originally planned? Like, these are questions that I guess it sounded like I'm like, oh,
I don't know
comparing
though. I still
myself.
think that still sounds emotional to me though, because
No, it is
like,
emotional. Like
because
it's
if you
me
think about
trying.
it, okay.
It's me trying to compare myself to the almost like in paper, in theory kind of things. But it's
Right.
I can't stress this enough. Like, dude, I literally called the bottom of the Dow Jones 4 months before it happened. Okay, that thing has literally run the entire time, and how much money did I make off of it? Like none.
And I will
Like,
I
just
will
broke
say though
even again.
I
right?
will
So
say
it's
though
like,
for that, sorry. I will say though for that, like whether you're asking like, is it okay if this happen if you do this, or is it okay if you do this? There's no right answer, because roughly
That's what I'm
50% of the time you can like,
Yeah.
let's say you think it's right to do one way. 50% of the time you're gonna be right, and then the other 50% of the
Right.
time you're gonna be wrong. And again, it
That's-
just goes
that's
back to
what I'm
like,
saying. It's
can you
it
live
still
with
sounds like
being
an emotional
wrong?
question for me, because
Yeah.
you can't there's no way for you to know for sure going into that question that from a even if it's from a technical standpoint, there's no way for you to know for sure going into that question that from a technical standpoint you're going to do the right thing. You can do all the study that you want. So are you okay living with this idea that you might pull the trade, it pulls back on you 30 pips, and then it rockets and hits your target? Is that okay with you? Like, kind of to D Hart's point, because Like, and that's what I meant. Like, it still sounds emotional because it's like, even if you're saying it's from not so much from a standpoint of like you emotionally don't want to sit in the trade more. It's more so like you technically think the trade still has more to run. You're still dealing with this idea of what if I'm wrong about the technicals? That's fundamentally the question I keep hearing you ask is what if I'm wrong about the question?
It's
What if I'm
from
wrong?
a,
You
an
know?
issue of self confidence and taking
Right.
a lot of losses for a long period of time, and then just
I
assuming
mean,
that I must be wrong when most of the time I can literally show in every single day markups. Most of the time I'm right, but it's like figuring out that mental side. Like
Yeah, it's
that's the only
probably
thing that
yeah, it's probably like, well, maybe this is the time that I'm not. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
again, like for me I'll just say it for me. I am much more comfortable with me stopping the trade 10 pips early, and then it goes another 3R, than it going within it getting to that point and
yeah.
reversing. I'm much more comfortable. Like I'd be like, damn, like it is what it is. But like it'll hurt my soul more if it like just gets right there and then reverses. That's just me. So the way I started trading is Chuck gave me a tip about like you have your target where you think, and then just bringing it back to the nearest whole number. That's what
It's not my
that's what
tip,
I've started doing.
ICT, but yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah, just
but
add
you
like
but
a
you I got it
sample.
from you. So like I'm
Yeah.
crediting you with that. But yeah, so
Yeah.
like, and even if it doesn't get there, I can live with that.
Yeah. And I just want to say this, like, I'll leave it with this and I will, give you the space as well. Because I think for me, it's this, because you mentioned this idea of, it's likely a byproduct of you taking a lot of losses and this idea of like you thinking, getting into it, that you're going to be wrong, right? And I completely 110% agree, 110% understand that. Mine's a little bit more so from like a personal, emotional perspective in terms of like thinking that you're wrong going into something, even though you know your shit, and there's a good possibility that you could be right. But at the same time, I think, and this is kind of what I mentioned in terms of my trading values, and this is something that I did like way back when I sat down and talked about this with myself, was one thing that I valued in trading and in myself was the idea of like the gray area of trading, the idea that I have no idea what will happen next, right? I like the one thing that I value is that I don't know for sure, right? If you hear me ever talk to any of my family members who ever come to me and like, oh, Charles, I know you like finance, give me a stock to buy, yada, yada. I might give them something that's actually just me. Like, for example, my mom just asked me for a stock for her investment club. I gave her the little like company that I use to like make that really good options play on for ODC. And I still know that I still feel very confident that it has space to run. But even then, I was still like, I have no idea what's going to happen next with this company. So I don't want to hear shit. Like that's basically what I said. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And this idea of I don't know, it doesn't only help you with bringing yourself down from being arrogant. It also helps you when you're down on yourself. Because to D Art's point, yeah, you're probably wrong, but this could be the trade that you're right and you don't know. So love the gray area. I think that's
It's
one of
also
the things
very
that I've
freeing.
always told myself.
It's also very freeing knowing like
Right,
I don't
exactly.
know. Like
I have no fucking
it has
idea.
like, and because you
Yeah.
don't know, it's not a hit on your intelligence. It's not a hit on
Yeah.
your ability or anything like that. It's just I'm just doing the best I can. I don't know.
It's hey, damn, bro. I said that was the last thing I wanted to say, but then you brought up intelligence because that's the other thing too. That's the other thing I had to talk about with myself. That's what it was for me. Like trading is for me is a way to show my sign was a way for me to show intelligence, not really for a way for me to make money. And now trading has become much more about me making money when I've gotten over this idea of showing my intelligence, right? And I love you, Amber, but fundamentally for me, it sounds like trading is a way for you to show your intelligence. It's a way for you to prove to the world that you're smart. And if you go at it that way, it's always going to be from this standpoint of like, am I wrong or am I right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're wrong or right. All that matters is if you made money, like that's the same thing I told myself in my journal when I was like really profitable all the time. I was like, I don't really feel confident in this trade because of X, Y, and Z, but I could win. Who knows?
And
Or I
the thing
I
with
feel
that
really
is,
confident in this trade because of X, Y, and Z, but I could lose. Who knows?
and I've seen a lot of, I know it's not, I know for a fact that trading has nothing to do with intelligence because I've seen a lot of these dumb niggas on YouTube be great traders. A lot of them. They're popping up left and right. There's a new nigga every day.
Because they don't know what they don't know, you know?
Yeah, to your point, Charles, I will say, like, yeah, like that's an issue for me. It's like I literally started off by saying, like, I became too attached to this identity as a trader. I lost my vision, dude. Like, I don't know, like, it rocked my entire world to the core, and still through all of that, I stayed with trading, right? So it's like it became this like part of me where it almost felt like I was almost in a area of like broken hoop dreams, you know what I mean? You're about to go to the finals and then you break your ankle and you're retired from the thing. And so it's like I have this weird complex. I 100% agree with you. I started off, I was like, this is a way to show me I'm smart. I learned smart money concepts. Literally in the name, it's smart money concepts, right? So it's just like detaching from all that. That's what I've been working on this past week. I've been actually working on it for the past like 6 weeks, literally just little bit by little bit. So you're 100% correct. I felt that trading is the only way for me to like prove myself to people anywhere, right? Like, well, what do you do? Like, I trade, right? Like that was my thing. So it's like, yeah, you're 100% correct. And I'm literally in the process of like breaking down. You're not a trader. You're a person who trades. You're not a trader. You're a person who trades. It doesn't matter if it hits to take profit. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You just trade. It's just something that you do, like you wipe your ass, bro. It's just another thing.
And
so y'all are 100% right.
Yeah, something that Amber, I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Hormozi. Chuck, I know you are.
Mosey Nation?
Yeah, Mosey Nation. Yeah, there you go. So he one thing that he talks about a lot is like limiting beliefs, and the way that he gets over his limiting beliefs is like walking it back to its like furthest conclusion. So what happens?
You have to put it up to the court of your mind, is how my therapist says it.
And it's like, what happens if you're wrong? Okay, if you're wrong, you lose a little bit of money. What happens if you lose that little bit of money? Does your trading count explode? No. Okay, well then you can come back the next day. Are you gonna die? No, you're not gonna die. So you can show up the next day. Like what, you know what I mean? If you just keep walking it back and peeling back the layers of the onion, it doesn't really matter. And the way that he describes it, which is a bit of a nihilistic view on the world, but it's just like we're all playing a fake game, a made up game with fake rules. It literally does not matter. It's a made up game with fake rules. It doesn't matter.
None of it is real.
This shit don't.
None of this is real.
It doesn't matter. So like, that's a very freeing thought because you're not tied to the identity of I have to be successful at this thing. So yeah,
bro, it's crazy that you say that because that's one of the things that like I'll talk to like I'm an alpha, Daniel. Like I was an alpha at Howard, and so it's like I'll talk to like people younger than me in the chapter and like all this kind of stuff. And when I start talking to them, I tell them about how like I'm interested in this kind of shit and like yada yada. And then somehow like I always like end up in that conversation like still at the same time like talking to them about how like money is not real. Like
bro, it's just numbers.
It's very fake.
It's numbers on the screen.
It's a way for us to secure resources. That's it. It is an easier medium of exchange for us to secure resources than us actually just going into the field, picking it, and exchanging it with somebody else for the other resource that we need, right? Like, that's all it is. It is just a medium of exchange. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make you any better than anybody. Like, it's all fake, bro. And, like, when I tell you the minute I had that mindset, there was no game anymore. Like, there was no race. There was no I'm behind. There was no merit. Like, it was just is. Like, I'm doing now, and if I want to stop doing now, I will stop doing now. Because to your point, Amber, I am not a trader. I am a Charles who trades. Like, I am not a coder. I am a Charles who codes. Like, I am me first and foremost, and I do everything else because everything else is not me. Everything else is not real. The only thing that is real is me and the relationships that I have with the people that are around me. That's the only thing that's real. Like, that is the only thing that actually fucking is real and matters. So it's like, you got that, you got what you want out of that in terms of you being you. Now, if you're having some issues with You don't like who you are? That's a completely different discussion for, I'm not saying you, Amber, I'm just talking about like in general to like the world. Like that's a completely different discussion that like is way outside the scope of this conversation. But like if you like who you are, detach your trading from yourself. You know what I mean? Like that's, it's to your point, Daniel, it's this idea of, yeah,
None of this shit
it
matters.
shouldn't be your self-worth because at the end of the day, I'll put it like this. My dad is super, super successful. I've never wanted for anything out of my life. The only thing I've wanted with this man, or wanted, is a better relationship with this man. That's it. That's it. I'm kind of opening up my fucking gown here and showing the world this shit, but like that's the real situation. Like, I didn't need new cleats all the time. I didn't need a PS4. I didn't need any of that shit. I wanted a better relationship with the man, bro. Like, that's what I want. And that's the only thing that's fucking real. Like, he went out, he's very successful. Like, everything that we talk about trying to do, man just done that shit in his own right. But it means nothing if you have, it means nothing because it is nothing. It is fake. He can go out and buy himself a nice little car. Cool. Still gonna have to take that shit to the shop, and that shit's still gonna get old. It's still gonna be an old model in 10 years. He can go buy a new house. Still gonna have to get that shit fixed up. It's gonna be an old house in 20 years. It's all fake.
Yeah.
So let it all go. You know?
And
that-
I'm not saying that
that's not just to you, Amber. I think that was just like to the world, because I think that's one thing for us. Like, I see it all the time, and I'm glad I went through this kind of moment in my life where I've had this kind of like discussion with myself, but at the same time, it's a process. Like, I understand what you're saying in terms of you're working on it. It's something that I still work on to this day. Like, I've been working on it basically since I moved to Atlanta, you know, and that's 2 years now. So I'm still working on it. Like,
yeah, and it like he's saying, this isn't easy. Like I'm not saying this from a higher point. I don't know what you're not getting about it. It's just this
Right.
just do this. You know, it's really not, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But like that's just,
Yeah.
I'm just imparting the way that I view the world and stuff. Like this, none of this shit matters. As long as I'm not dead, as long as none of the people that I care about are severely affected by any of the things that I'm doing, as long as I can wake up tomorrow and be happy that I'm doing what I want to be doing to a degree,
And Daniel,
I'm good.
you're reading my fucking mind right now. Get out of my fucking mind, because the next thing I was gonna say to Amber was, what do you want out of trading? Because this is the thing that my therapist asks me all the time. He's like, with everything that you're doing, what do you want? You know?
I want to be
like,
rich.
He's like, I'm not telling you to not go out there and try to make $500 million. If that's what you want, do that shit. But what do you want that $500 million to do for you? Why are you doing it? You know? Like, and be very honest with yourself, and because like when you understand like that's what you want and this is what you want, and you're very honest with this is what you want, when it starts to compromise who you are, it becomes a lot easier for you to say to yourself, oh, well, I want this. Now, is this worth more than my values? Is this worth more than me? And then it just becomes a very easy situation of holding up trading or whatever the fuck it is that you're comparing versus who you are and what it is that you want. So like that's the one thing that I would say in terms of like the thing that helped me the most with this is understanding what it was that I want. Like I don't know if y'all remember, but on Thursday I rattled off to that list of like, I want to buy this many houses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also want to buy a fucking soccer team. Like, I want to do all that shit, but the other thing that I want is, genuinely speaking, I know, like I just described, I've had a very privileged upbringing because my dad has been very lucky in terms of he was very successful. And I say he was very lucky because nobody gave him his success. It was not like, you know, his dad was uber successful and he, you know, just kind of continued on. My dad's dad was a fucking teacher, a black teacher in the 70s and 60s in New Orleans, Louisiana. And his wife was a black teacher in New Orleans, Louisiana in the 60s and 70s. You do the math on how much money they had and what my dad had to do to make that kind of money that like we have now, you know? So that being the case, it's like a lot of my family has not been able to have the life that I haven't been able to have. Like my cousins that like I literally will call my brothers or sisters more than I would call them my cousins. I've seen our diametrically opposed lives like bear out in front of me, where it's like I never had to worry about going to college, where they had to get a scholarship. They had no fucking choice, you know? I don't want that shit for the rest of my family. And the next generation, like as much as I want these material things, that's what I want. I want because I have all these because my dad has been super successful, been able to send me to all these white schools. I've been around these white kids where it's like, for example, I have a white friend who he literally talks about all the time, a cousin of his who has been going to all of these different fucking graduate schools, but they can just afford to just send her because the family can just afford that shit. Like, and if I have a fucking little niece or nephew or a little cousin that wants to do that shit, I want to be able to afford them to do that shit. You know what I mean? Because, like I was just talking about, this shit's all fake, so let them be happy. You know? Like, so let them be happy. But it's like, I think that's my personal lot in life because I was the one that was privileged enough to be born to my dad and like the things that I like and all this kind of shit. And so it's like, this is what I want out of life. And that's why I want to do this shit. And so it's like, when I think about going through shit or even shit like this, me trying to go to law school and still trying to do this shit with y'all, still trying to trade, still trying to have a relationship with my girlfriend, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that shit because I want that shit. Like, this is what I want. This is why I want to do it. And it all makes sense to me. And it's not, there is no question about I need to do this shit because I need to prove it to myself. Like, it's not about me proving it to anybody. It's about me wanting to give this shit to my family. And also, I want to be able to buy all those houses I talked about just for myself. I'm a little bit selfish, you know? So think about it that way too. Like, what do you want? You know, what, like, you can start with like, what is it the life? What is the life that you want trading to create for you? But also take a step further in terms of like, what do you want? Because I think oftentimes you hear that, and this is something I've often said as well. Like, think about like, what is the life you want trading to create for you? I think that becomes a little bit shallow because it oftentimes really just gets at the material things where a lot of times there's an underlying reason why you came back to trading after going blind. Like, you want something out of this shit. Like, it's not just about proving your intelligence. It might be about that right now, but there's something else that you want out of this shit. And so it's like, what is it that you want? You know what I mean? Because personally, like, the only thing that I could equate it to in my own life was when I broke my ankle when I was in high school. People were saying that I was going to have to get my ankle fused and I would never be able to play sports again. And I was like, nah, man, I want to play sports for the rest of my life. So experimental surgery, me, please. I don't even care if I can play college soccer. I just want to be able to run and play golf and play basketball with my friends. So experimental surgery, me, please. I will do whatever it takes. I don't care. Like, oh, it's only been done on one other person at this point. I don't care. Let's try it because that's what I want.
And also, with so Chuck earlier mentioned like know what you want, and like if the stakes get too high, like for your morals or something like that, there's a just get out. And another reason for that is like if you know what you want, like there's a million ways to get it. You know what I mean? Like it, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but like if push came to shove, and like I didn't have to like if push came to shove, there's other things that I could do to get where I want to do that don't involve trading.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But like
I'm sitting up here talking about the money you want. Trading doesn't have to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally what, because it's like once you have that, you come back to trading because you love it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm still trading. Because I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it because I need to do it. Like I just said, I'm about to go to law school. Like if I'm being honest with you, I wanted to go the easy way. I'm trying to go to law school. I'm trying to go into bankruptcy and mergers and acquisitions. I would just focus on working my job and making partner. But I trade because I like it. I'm trying to set up ODC because I enjoy this shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the minute, to Drake's lyric, the minute I stop having fun with it, I'll be done with it. That's real. Like, the minute I stop having fun with it, I'll be done with it. It's like I still enjoy showing up to the markets. I still enjoy putting myself to the test every single day. I enjoy coding strategies. That's awesome to me now. Like, I love that shit too, you know?
There is also a bit of a, for me anyway, there is also a degree of it, like, I'm 5 years into it. Why the fuck would I just stop. Like this is a skill that how many people in the world know? Like what percentage of the world knows how to trade as like profitably? You know what I mean? What percentage of the world is that? And like there's a degree where like, you know, I have this skill, why not put it to use? You know what I mean? So
We did a lot of talking at you though.
yeah, we did, and I apologize because like
Yeah.
Chuck said something, and then that would just spark an idea in me, and I would say something, and then we
Yeah.
just so yeah, I
Like
apologize.
I say all the
but,
time, Brandon needs to get out of my fucking mind, bro.
but like yeah, a lot of this I want you to understand. Like a lot of this is it's not like me like talking down at you. Like a lot of this is like
Yeah.
shit I had to like tell myself, and
Well,
shit
I'm telling
I'm
myself
still
every day.
telling
And
myself.
I've seen it work. Yeah.
I mean,
And I've seen it work with myself. You know.
yeah, a lot of it is stuff I've already been talking with myself, but I guess I just thought
Yeah.
I was further through that issue or those issues or
Honestly,
the
thing I've come to understand is I'm never it'll never not be there. It'll just like I
Yeah.
just have to be disciplined enough to not let it affect me. Like it'll
And
I will
think that's
always
Why, I think that's
yeah.
why spaces like this are super important though, because the reason why I think I've had so much success in terms of getting over the things that we've been talking about up until this point is because I have a weekly therapy session where like this is basically all we talk about. You know, like like I literally just sit here and talk about this shit for myself and like how it equates to my family relationship and like all this kind of shit, and like I keep that shit sacred, bro. Like the only reason I'm not having therapy is if I'm not in Atlanta, Georgia, or if I'm not in Georgia, because he's not allowed to practice therapy if I am not in Georgia. Like, because it's still like a telehealth thing, but it's like a rule where it's like you can't practice outside of the state in which you're licensed. So it's like that's the only reason why I don't go to therapy every day. So it's like I say it all to say, find someone as well, whether that's us. I'm more than happy to talk about it with you because I also need to talk. Like I keep talking about, I'm dealing with this shit myself. So the more I talk about it, the better. So I'm more than happy to talk about it with you. Maybe it's your wife. Maybe it's your best friend. I don't know. Maybe it's another trading friend that you have. But you have to find somebody to like talk about this shit with, because the best thing that you can do is the shit that DR talked about earlier, that Hermosi does. He puts the shit up to the court of his own mind, where he says, is this logical? And honestly, some of the best ways that you can do that is actually just talking about it with somebody else. Because it's when you start to say shit out loud where you realize that is so stupid. Like, what are you saying right now? Like,
Yeah, no, there's so many
that makes
times
no sense.
yeah, there's so many times I'll have like an idea or a thought and like I'll say it to my girlfriend and as I'm saying it I'm like, this sounds dumb as
Yeah.
hell. I
Yeah.
just don't even listen to me. I'm sorry. Don't just ignore me.
And it's not even just ideas, it's the way that you talk about yourself
Mm.
as well. That's something that I'm working on too. I've really practiced this idea of telling people exactly how I feel about myself, right? Because a lot of times our emotions are not really driven by the circumstance, but how the circumstance makes us feel about ourselves. And so when you talk about how you feel about yourself in a situation, it's not so much that it's illogical and that's wrong. That's the other thing that you always have to balance. Your feelings are your feelings, and they're allowed to be your feelings. So just because they're not logical doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have them. You shouldn't judge yourself for having them, but you just shouldn't base life decisions off them, is all the way that I think about it, right? Like that kind of shit in terms of like illogical feelings. But like when you talk about your feelings in a situation, like for example, like trading and how like something happening in trading made you feel, it can often be very good for people to say, well, it's like, honestly, bro, like you're struggling with this idea of like you need to prove something to somebody, right? That's a great one for trading. Or you need to, like, that was always my thing. Like, I needed to prove myself to my family or my dad or whatever the fuck, right? Like, you need to prove something to somebody. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. Why do you need to prove something to somebody? It's your trading account, your money, all this kind of shit. One person you got to prove yourself to is yourself, right? Like, that kind of stuff. And, like, just having those moments of, this is what I am feeling, you know, when I'm doing this shit, you know? And it's not so much like, this is what's happening, but, like, this is what happened, and here's how I felt about it, because oftentimes that's where the actual fix lies, you know? So, yeah.
100%.
I mean, yeah, so a lot of stuff was said today. But, yeah, honestly, yeah, if you ever want to reach out, talk about anything, if you want. I mean, we're going to do this once a week anyway, so, like, I consider this my weekly therapy session. So, yeah,
Healthcare.
Yeah, it's free healthcare. It's the closest we'll get to living in Canada. Free healthcare, bro.
No, I'm saying you have healthcare. You should go get a real therapist.
Yeah, but why? This is
Everybody needs it.
this is better.
Our trading
Bro,
support.
the way we live life is not okay. Like as human beings, the way we set up life is not okay, bro. Like I think everybody could do for a good therapy session that can afford it with the healthcare they have. So
But yeah, honestly, I think this is a good point to just end it. We've gone for about an hour now, so talked about a lot of good things. Anything else anybody wants to say before we close?
no, I'm good.
Good luck and good trading.
Yep, y'all too. Yeah, that being said, we'll see y'all in the next one.
I agree.